Solange Knowles, born June 24, 1986. Not every day you meet someone that had the musical career and ride Solange Knowles had. There may be less than a handful of people on earth that can say they've experienced 1. Being the younger relative to a mega star that's universally popular and for the most part loved across the world, and 2. Also be in the same business as them career-wise, trying to forge your own path in an industry heavily focused on what said star relative is doing 24/7. Only person I can think of that could relate is Janet Jackson and her Jackson siblings constantly living in the shadows of the greatest entertainer of all time in Michael Jackson. But for Janet, she was able to fight through the crowd surrounding her brother and make a lane for herself where she too became a megastar, having 3 diamond albums worldwide and a bunch more that sold millions and millions of copies. When you talk about artists that made it out the shadows, Janet has to be atop the list. And then you have an artist like Solange Knowles that I wouldn't exactly say she falls on the opposite side of Janet's situation, but her musical success compared to her sister didn't have anywhere close to the peaks of Beyonce. And maybe the difference is because Michael and Janet were different genders, making it easier for the female version of him to automatically have her own lane. Whereas Solange and Beyonce are both female, so her only chance was to pick up where Beyonce was slacking, which in her prime and even today was not many places at all. In fact, I couldn't name an avenue Solange could have been better or more notable than her older sister, unless she became a better public speaker, which we all know can be the only knock on Beyonce. Solange has released 4 studio albums over the course of her career, beginning in 2002 with her album Solo Star, that released when she was just 16 years old. That album peaked at 49 on the charts and sold little over 200,000 to date. She followed that up with another slept-on effort in 2008 that did crack the top 10, peaking at 8, but still didn't move many units, placing Solange Knowles in the shadows right out the gate, while at the same time Beyonce was dropping multi-platinum #1 albums as a solo artist and with the group Destiny's Child until 2004. Solange's 3rd album in 2016 was her first and only #1 album that went gold and received great reviews, only to come back 3 years later and sell 11,000 copies first week with her last album. It's been 5 years since, so is it safe to say musically, Solange never got out of the shadows? She did happen to find success elsewhere, but musically, what happened? Let's talk about it. Salute to Twin on IG for this request. It's your boy JC, Stunted Growth Music. Get it. Take a minute to like, subscribe, and comment on who I should do next. Solange Knowles is a singer, songwriter, and actress from Houston, Texas that was born into the entertainment business, practicing performing arts like dance and theater since she could walk and speak. As soon as 5 years old, she began to sing in local talent shows and fairs, eager to follow her sister Beyonce down the path of recording artists. By 14, she was filling in for Destiny's Child members on tour and played the role of backup dancer. Initially, it was assumed she would even join the group as the 4th member, but collectively it was decided it best for her to carve her own lane as a solo artist, with Kelly Rowland saying that Solange is too talented to be the 4th wheel in a group because she was a solo star in her own right. Those words weren't taken lightly, as Solange then named her debut album Solo Star, playing off that and her first name. Stunt #1, not as good as the original. Using my athletic background to speak in sports terms, usually the younger sibling grows to be the better athlete of the family simply because they got to sit and watch all the ups and downs of their elder sibling's journey, refining what they do to be assured success. Not only them, but as a parent, it's much easier to manage the younger child for the same reasons, with you having the weapon of experience. But in entertainment, it can be a lot different because other things that matter are involved. If it were simply about skill in music, the hierarchy historically would look vastly different. With that said, Solange had an uphill battle to fight. Beyonce was and still is one of those rare artists where she doesn't appear to have any weaknesses industry-wise. Everything you want from a female singer specifically, she already was, and it created comparisons for Solange that were unbalanced to begin with. Talent-wise, it goes without saying that Beyonce is one of the most talented singers of all time, regardless of genre. Say what you want, because music is subjective to who's listening, but the records and albums sold along with her live performances proved over time that not many could match what Beyonce brought to the table. Like Solange, she was bred to be a singer and performer and had all the tools to back it up. With females in entertainment, looks will always be a major element in the equation. Perfect example, Ice Spice. No offense, but if she looked like Azalea Banks, she'd still be in the hood. When it comes to Solange and her sister, beauty comparisons were also always going to be unfair, seeing as Beyonce has been known to be one of the most beautiful women of all time. Solange is beautiful as well, but that's like saying Kobe was an all-time great, but he was never going to be Michael Jordan. They had the same game, but the original was always chosen to be better. Those unfair comparisons slowed Solange's career because everyone always expected her to become or be better than her sister, and that was never going to happen. Stunt number 2, making hit songs. Another huge reason Solange was always placed in the shadows musically is because of expectations once again. But this time for her to have the same success on the charts or close to it as her sister. I'll say this now, that if Solange wasn't Beyonce's sister, I really think she would have been received much better than she was as a singer and songwriter. Her music is really good, and what I like about it most is it always follows a certain direction and shows her creativity and versatility as an artist. She made disco-inspired songs like Sandcastle Disco from her second album, pop songs like Losing You in 2012, and the classic hip-hop inspired R&B records like 2008's Champagne Chronic Nightcap featuring Lil Wayne, or 2013 Looks Good with Trouble featuring Kendrick Lamar. When it comes to exploring all the corners of her singing talents, it may be the one edge she has on her sister, as Beyonce has always stuck to the standards of the industry formula, and it's been good to her, as she's never put out an album that didn't peak at number 1. She has 13 number 1 singles, over 24 top 10 hits, and 32 Grammy Awards. Although it shouldn't, this all drew up expectations for Solange, setting the bar to where she was always going to be compared and measured by unreachable goals. Either way, fighting that battle would have put her in a better place musically if she did have some hits every so often, and that didn't happen. She does have a few dance number 1 songs and won a Grammy for her song Don't Touch My Hair, but as far as hit songs that drive popularity, her catalog doesn't have enough to get her out the shadows. Stunt number 3, inconsistency. As mentioned, Solange, strictly as an artist, is multi-talented and has always expressed her versatility over the years, but that ability to multitask and be multifaceted may have worked against her music career. She would put out a solid album, then return 6 years later like she did between album 1 and 2, expecting the same audience to feel a strong enough connection to support the music. Building a core fan base always eluded Solange because when she did return, she was a reinvented persona, forcing fans to have to decide every time if they like the music enough or not. When you have a core audience, they'll pay attention and stream or purchase no matter what. Something Beyonce has managed to do with her Bayhive built over decades of growing with her fans. Solange has never put out albums less than 3 years between each other, taking as much as 8 years off from album 2 and 3. Not for nothing, she has been busy in between those times, exploring her other creative abilities like acting, performance arts, modeling, clothing design, and writing scores for the New York Ballet. Musically, it was tough to ignore all the other opportunities she had to do other things with her talent and position, but it made the music output inconsistent, therefore unable to conjure up a strong enough fan base to where in that aspect she didn't seem in the shadows. All in all, Solange understood what it was early on. She once said herself that she wasn't Beyonce and never will be in her song God Given Name from her second album. What she didn't know was that no matter what, she was always going to be compared to Beyonce as long as they were in the same field, casting a shadow over her music career that for these reasons she never got out from. Salute, much respect. It's your boy JC Stunted Growth Music, and I'm out.